Hey guys, what's up? So I'm back again with another video now. This one is the video that I basically planned at the end of last video, and obviously we did a little bit of research and that just to make sure that I included everything I needed to in this video. But this is basically my top 14 races in the Mass Effect trilogy. Now there's a few that some people might think, why are they not included in that? Well, I've got a few reasons for it, but straight away I'll start off with, I'm not including Reapers, because they're obviously machines that were created by Leviathans, if you go by the Mass Effect 3 DLC. I'm not including Geth, because obviously Geth were created by the Quarians, so I'm not including them. I'm not including Keepers, because we don't really know a great deal about them, apart from they were possibly one of the earlier races that were I'm trying to think of the word here. Sorry about that. Sorry about this. Obliterated by the Reapers and then transformed into slaves for them, obviously just working on the Citadel and that, but also being the key and that for the Reapers to actually take over the Citadel as well. So there is a few that I'm not actually including in this video and that but obviously this is just my preference. This is just the way I'm doing it, and that obviously if you guys have yours or anything and that, let us know what your list would be in the comments down below. But this is basically my top 14 races in the trilogy. Now obviously I'll start from 14 all the way up to number 1, so I'll start from weakest to obviously the more superior race in my own personal opinion. So yeah. So first off, we'll start off with the Yahg. Now I could have left these out, to be fair, but I thought why not. But we don't know a great deal about them. I mean, we know the Shadow Broker in the Mass Effect 2 DLC there. The Shadow Broker was a Yahg, kind of almost built like a Krogan, but looked more kind of like if a Krogan and a Batarian had a mutated baby, then you've got a Yahg basically. But these are the first I'm touching on. I am going to have these in last because they're very rarely seen beyond their own homeworld, according to Liara, and I don't think they'll have a strong military or anything. And yeah, they could be brutal in a fight, to be fair, and that, but just we don't know a great deal about them, and the fact that they don't really venture outside of their own world, and that kind of tells you everything about them. So I've got the Yahg in 14th position. Right, in 13th, right, what am I going to go with here? So I might as well yes, I am jotting down as I'm doing this as well. So obviously 14th Yahg, and also Yahg in 14th. 13th I'm going to go with the Vorcha in 13th. Now, the Vorcha are kind of classed as scavengers in a way. I mean, a lot of them, when it comes to fighting and that, they tend to be for the Blood Pack alongside Krogan. Now, apparently they're one of the earlier ones, along with the Batarians, to suffer the Reaper attack in Mass Effect 3, and one of the earlier ones to practically almost go extinct. So that obviously shows that they clearly don't have a strong military presence or anything like that, and they are basically probably the most monster-like out of the main races in my own personal opinion. And yeah, obviously they can fight, of course, and that, but they are just mainly just guns for hire to work alongside Krogan for the Blood Pack. So obviously in 13th I'm going to go with the Vorcha. Right, in 12th, right, this is where I think we're going to start going a little bit tricky now. In 12th I'm going to go with the Volus. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Volus in 12th. Now, the Volus obviously do have their own embassy on the Citadel, to be fair, and they are well known, I suppose, in the whole universe, but if you do the war assets in Mass Effect 3, their military strength is very minimal. Like, they don't really have that much to offer. So, yes, they are better than the Yahg and the... Even though what they lack in terms of combat, because they are very small, like Volus, you know what I mean? And they're not really the greatest in combat either. But I think what gives them the edge over the Yahg and Vorcha is probably just a little bit more class compared to them. But still not great, so I'll have the Volus in 12th. In 11th... in 11th I'll go with the Elcor. Now, I'm actually a big fan of the Elcor, and I find them very fascinating. I love the way they communicate and everything, it's absolutely brilliant. Unlike the Volus, if you put AI turrets on the back, they can be quite useful in a fight, to be fair. But apart from that, they can't really do much in terms of combat, because they do actually... They are actually one of the rarest races where they actually walk on all fours. So... yeah, so that they can't actually fight unless they have AI to actually help them in that effort. Like the Volus, they do have their own embassy, like on the Citadel, but still not great for the Elcor and that. But at least they can offer a little bit more when it comes to combat, because of their size and the fact you put AI turrets on the back and do all the damage for them. So for me, the Elcor comes in 11th. Right, in 10th. In 10th, I'm going to go with the Hanar. Now, the Hanar, why, if you go by Mass Effect 3 to be fair and that, I mean, they can be lethal and dangerous when they want to be, but for the most part, they're usually shopkeepers or preachers, you know. Do you desire to hear of the Enkindlers, for example? Do you know what I mean? So, I think the reason what makes them better than the Yahg, Vorcha, Volus and Elcor is that because they're very unique, because they are basically like alien-like jellyfish, right? They are very stylistic, if that makes sense. There is something about Hanar. Obviously not great, obviously pretty much don't have like a military or anything. But to be fair, you have to give them credit for the fact that they actually let the Drell live with them on their own homeworld. So that's obviously nice of them. So there can be a little bit nastiness to them. There can be a good side to them as well. But they can be very influential to those in the Mass Effect universe that obviously have the whole religious beliefs and that obviously you know about Enkindlers and everything like that. So that's why I'll have the Hanar in 10th. In 9th, I'm going to go with the Drell in 9th. Now, obviously, I do like the Drell. I mean, there's a reason why this channel is called Fian MA2, because I love Fian Creole. He's my favourite character in the whole franchise. Absolutely love him. Now, not a great military. They don't even live on their own, like, homeworld. And that, because that obviously it became too... toxic for them. Excuse me. Became too toxic for them. Hence why, Fian is dying in Mass Effect 2. They can't breathe on their own homeworld, so they end up living on the Hanar, homeworld. Now, obviously, there's only 2 Drell that we've actually met, and that is Fian and Kolgat, his son. But they can be very good assassins. Basically, they can be good in combat. Obviously, like I say, we don't know about military strength-wise, because there probably really isn't one because of their situation of not even living on their own homeworld. But out of the weakest ones so far, they are probably the most skilled when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, because they can, if you go by Fian and Kolgat, they can be very assassin-like and very clever, very smart, and the fact that they can actually relive moments in their life in the blink of an eye, just like that, is pretty good. So I love the Drell. Not the worst, not perfect, but they can handle themselves, to be fair. So that's why I have the Drell in 9th. In 8th, I'm gonna go with going to go with Leviathans in here. I was torn between Leviathans and Batarians with this one, but I'm going to go with Leviathans. Now, we know the Leviathans made the Reapers. They basically designed the Reapers off the way they look, because when you see the Leviathans in the Mass Effect 3 DLC, like Leviathans do look like Reapers, but they are actually real. They have a little bit of like metal skill to them, but they are aquatic like beings that actually do like live underwater and that, so they are actually real, unlike Reapers. I know, like, Reapers obviously, you know, sentient machines and that, but they were built. They were actually made, where Leviathans are real. Now, Leviathans, clearly because of the whole Reaper situation, there's not really like that many Leviathans left or anything, and that you have to like think that there's only like a few still in hiding in certain parts of the galaxy underwater. But they can handle themselves. They are pretty good, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, in the Mass Effect 3 DLC, and that I'm sure like Leviathan has the ability to like control people, a bit like the indoctrination with Reapers. But I'm sure Leviathans can do it, but they use it to their advantage to actually defeat a Reaper, because a Leviathan actually defeats like a Reaper, like in the DLC. So I think if the Leviathans were like more, like if there was more of them and there was still a bigger like influence of them out there, I think Leviathans would be higher. But obviously, unlike other races and that, they're pretty much, obviously they don't have a military or anything. They're nothing like that. They're just an ancient species that is still like about, but just very few of them now, because of basically the whole Leviathan and Reaper situation. It's very similar to like the Geffen like Quarian situation, where Leviathans made the mistake by building the Reapers, and they suffered the consequences, and they had to pretty much go into hide, and very few of them left. Obviously with the Quarians it's different, because obviously, you know, the migrant fleet and everything, which I will get into in a bit. But yeah, Leviathans, don't underestimate them. Very powerful, can destroy Reapers if they're provoked and if they want to, but socially, like, none of that. They don't have any influence in the rest of the galaxy, to be fair, so that's why I have the Leviathans in 8th. In 7th, I'm going to go with Batarians. Now, Batarians, they pretty much do have like a military, like they do, and that because obviously they were one of like the first to get attacked, obviously by the Reapers, and that like in Mass Effect 3 during the invasion. But mostly when you think of Batarians, you think of them as terrorists, like, and mercenaries, and that, and sometimes like full on racist, you could say, like in the Mass Effect universe, like as well, and that like they're not the easiest like race to go along with, but obviously don't really have much influence in terms of like having like a seat on the council or like their own embassy or anything, and that like slightly they're like a better version of the Vorcha, like Batarians. That makes sense. You could class them as scavengers a little bit, but they are a little bit more intelligent. But what holds Batarians like back is attitude, and the fact that there is a lot of terrorist work that goes on with them. Hence, you know, like Bring Down the Sky in Mass Effect 1, for example, and the fact that a lot of them have a lot of agendas, like have a lot of an agenda with Shepard because of the whole, you know, like, you know, letting like the like Batarian like colony like get destroyed and that, like, but obviously to stop the Reaper invasion like earlier. And that's so. But you can't underestimate like a Batarian. But there is a few factors that hold them back, so that's why I'm going to have Batarians in 7th. Right, we're starting to get to the big ones now. So. Okay. This is where it gets a bit tricky now. Right, okay. In 6th, I'm going to go with Quarians. Now, what the Quarians have compared to the rest of the galaxy, and what makes them pretty unique, is they have the largest fleet. The only problem is, though, is mainly civilian ships. They do have a military. It's not a bad military, but obviously not the best by any means. Obviously, the top 5 have a much bigger and stronger military presence and better in combat, you could say, than Quarians. But they do have they have the largest fleet in the galaxy, to be fair to them. Great tech experts and everything. But similar to Leviathans, their biggest downfall was building machines and that as labour, but then backfiring and then driven from their own home world, and then in a constant conflict with their creations, you could say. So I mean, obviously I like Tally. Tally's absolutely brilliant. But great, like I said, large fleet, the largest fleet in the galaxy, but obviously mainly civilian ships, because the migrant fleet, they're all, unless they're off doing the pilgrimage or anything, and they're all pretty much stay true to the roots, and that which you got to give them respect for. But the other, the top 5 though, are still far superior in my opinion. So I'll have the Quarians in 6. Right, so we're into the top 5 now. So we're down to Asari, humans, Salarians, Turians, and Krogan. I'm going to have in 4th. Not 4th, sorry. In 5th, sorry. Right, in 5th I'm going to go with Krogan. Right, so, right, in terms of the top 5, right, obviously the Krogans are the best warriors by a country mile, which they are. Obviously, they're great, to be hired, for, contracts, mercenary work and things like that, but what lets them down is the fact that a lot of them abandoned Tuchanka because of genophage, and because their civilization basically became absolute ruins. But there was promise, and there was potential, in that when Eve tells you in Mass Effect 3, Tuchanka used to be a beautiful world, and that you can see it with the ancient ruins, and that there were signs of a great civilization once, with the Krogan. But obviously genophage, obviously aggressions and conflicts with Turians and Salarians because of that. Also, defeating the Rachni, but not getting any credit on that. That's, I could have actually included the Rachni. That is actually one I kind of forgot about, and I'm kind of... I could have had the Rachni. But to be fair, with the Rachni and that, where I maybe slightly get away with it is the fact that they were pretty much wiped out, apart from the Queen, the Rachni Queen on Mass Effect 1, and that where Binary Helix on Novaria found an egg. So it was one survivor, which obviously eventually led to more Rachni, but not all true, and some became influenced by Reapers. So I suppose I can kind of get away with the whole Rachni, because I suppose Rachni is kind of classed in a similar vein to, obviously, the Protheans, where there's only Javik and that's it. Obviously the rest of his kind are all gone. So I suppose I'll get away with that, but anyway, back to the Krogan. They never, got the appreciation that they deserved. They probably should have, deserved a spot on the council because of what they did with the Rachni walls, but they were just used, and that, by other races to do their dirty work, and they weren't appreciated for it, and because of the genophage as well. So, great warriors, and that's probably the best warriors in the galaxy, in my opinion. But not all of it their fault, but there is a lot of factors that do hold the Krogan back from being the dominant race in the galaxy, in my opinion. So that's why I'll have the Krogan in 5th. Right. Top 4. In 4th, I'm going to go with the Salarians. Now, the Salarians do have a pretty decent military. Not the best or anything. Obviously, Asari, humans, and Turians have a much better and stronger military. But what the Salarians do have over them is they probably have the best covert ops. Probably the best infiltration, units, and that, special forces, like, you know, Salarian special STG, like, for example. Probably the best, like, when it comes to special ops and things like that. They are very intelligent, like, they are very good. Obviously, what you could say, like, hold them back is the whole working with the Turians to obviously develop the genophage against the Krogan. Obviously, that's one thing that holds them back. But they do have a seat on the council, which, if you go through the Mass Effect trilogy, there's only 4 main races that actually have a seat on the council, and that's obviously human, Turian, Asari, and Salarian. So that's why the Salarians do make the top 4, because they have a seat on the council. Not the best military by any means, but they are the best when it comes to like special ops, like missions and things like that. So and some can be pretty good scientists, for good or for bad, whichever way you want to look at it. So that's why I'll have the Salarians in 4th. In 3rd, I'm going to go with humans. Now, it depends on how you look at this. Apparently, humans, because of the alliance, humans have the 2nd biggest military in the galaxy, and I suppose you can see why. Humanity does have a pretty strong, like military, which they do, and unlike the Asari, Salarians, and Turians, it takes them a while to get a seat on the council, but because of Commander Shepard, they finally get that seat on the council. I think the one thing that holds humanity back in the Mass Effect universe is the fact that, according to a lot of other races, like, humanity has too much greed, too much power, think that they deserve and own everything, and think that they're much bigger and higher than the other races, like, in the galaxy, which I can see, to be fair, I can. But, so because of those factors, I will have humanity in 3rd. Right, now we're up to the top 2. Now this, to be honest, you could have either one of these. I mean, I don't know whatever anyone else thinks, but in my own personal opinion, your top 2 has to be Asari and Turians. It has to be. It's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit tricky, like, this one and that, because, like I said, either one of these could be the most dominant, like, race in the galaxy, in my opinion. Okay, this is a tricky one. This one, it's getting trickier and harder as we went on. Obviously, near the beginning and that, it was like a piece of cake, but now it's actually become a little bit more tricky now. But do you know what? Right, this might be a little bit controversial to some, right? I'm going to have Asari in 2nd, and I'm going to have Turians 1st. I'll start with Asari first. Obviously, they have one of the longest lifespans. Obviously, them and the Krogan have the longest lifespans in the galaxy, which is a big factor. Have a seat on the council. Actually, the first to discover, out of, like, these, like, races in general, like, the Asari were the first ones that actually discovered the Citadel, which is a key factor. Obviously, a lot of the Asari can be very powerful. A lot of Asari tend to be biotics, for example. A lot can be Ardak Yakshi, like, for example, or Asari Justicars and that. So they're very, very powerful race, and they do have a pretty good military, and that, like, a very strong military, to be fair. But I think you can kind of see where I'm going to go with this. The reason why the Turians are the most dominant race in the galaxy, in my personal opinion, is because the Turians have the largest military in the universe. Not the largest fleet or anything. Quarians have the largest fleet. Humans, for example, have a very strong military with the like alliance military, but that's what does it for me. I always have to look at, like, military strength, and the Turians do have a pretty... Obviously, I'm not saying that the Turians are the best warriors or fighters or anything, because obviously they're not. They're good. Like, they are very good, and that, I mean, they do put up a pretty good fight on like, Palaven, like for example against the Reapers and that, like they do hold their own, but it's just the fact that that's what does it for me. I mean, again, like humans, Asari and Salarians, Turians have a seat on the council. Obviously, are considered a very well respected and powerful race. Obviously, humanity's first contact with an alien race was the Turians during the First Contact War. But that's what does it for me with the Turians, the fact that they have the biggest and largest military in the galaxy. So that's why, like I says, Asari are probably more dominant when it comes to like their own lifespan and how powerful they can be because of like what their people can become, that become a number of things. Whereas mainly with Turians, most of the time it's usually just like the Turian military, or maybe go rogue potentially, and that you don't know, and that or like CSEC, like for example, for like things like that. But that's what does it for me. That's why, in my own personal opinion, the Turians are the most dominant race in the galaxy because they have the largest and biggest military presence in the galaxy. So yeah. Right, so I will go in chronological order this time, from obviously best to least, or you could say worst if you want. So Turians first, Asari second, humans third, Salarians fourth, Krogan fifth, Quarians sixth, Batarians seventh, Leviathans eighth, Drell ninth, Hanar 10th, Elcor 11th, Volus 12th, Vorcha 13th, and Yahg 14th. So those are my top 14 races in the Mass Effect trilogy universe. You guys let us know what your top 14. Or if you want to have an extended list and you wanted to include Rachni, Reapers, Geth, etc. If you want to include all them in yours, that is totally fine. We can always have a little debate about it potentially and compare and everything, but that's fine, guys. So you'll let us know in the comments down below whether you agree with us or not, and yeah, just let us know in the comments down below. I'll be very interested to hear your own thoughts and opinions on this topic, and really enjoyed doing this video. Probably being a much longer one, just nearly over 27 minutes long, which isn't too bad. Had to do a bit of research about this, just to make sure, but yeah, really enjoyed it, guys. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. I'd really appreciate it, and make sure you stay safe, look after yourselves, enjoy the rest of your day, night, wherever you are. And until next time, next video will be either Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not entirely sure yet. It'll be one of the two. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care and peace.